John Fabian, Wally. Nice to meet you.
I'm a rocket scientist.
Hot diggity. I'm happy to meet you.
I'm going to be interested in your thoughts about putting man in space.
Yeah,
but
okay.
the sustaining of human beings in that kind of an environment may be the impossible part. And it seems to me that what we should do is solve them before we undertake the rest of the design of the journey.
Well, I hear what you're saying, and see, I see the world in a slightly different way. I see those as challenges. I see those as challenges and opportunities, because as we learn more about how to solve those challenges, we learn a great deal more about human beings. We learn a lot more about physiology. We learn a lot more about life support systems. So there's a lot to be learned in order to meet these challenges. And as we learn those things, typically we get value from those things that we learn.
Well, is it affordable?
Well, now there's another question. It's affordable if it's in our interest to do so. It's not affordable if it's not in our interest to do so. I would say that the lesson of the past nearly 30 years is that it's not affordable. It's not affordable because we haven't been willing to spend the money to do it. If you're not willing to spend the money to do it, then it's not affordable. Well, I think, yeah, I've had a wonderful experience in space. Now, I was only up for 6 or 7 days at a time, but it is a confined environment. And on my first flight, we had 7 people living in the volume of a minivan, and on my second, there were 7 of us in there. And so, you know, there is a bit of the sardine feeling about all of that.
You have any dishwashers on board?
No, we throw the dishes in the what we call the wet trash, and then they're taken care of after we land.
Yeah, how do you manage interpersonal relationships up there? Do you ever have differences among yourselves?
Well, of course you do. Anytime you get people together, certainly in an intense environment, you're going to have personality issues that come up. But you know, we train so well together for so long in advance of the mission that we put an awful lot of that stuff behind us in the simulators before we get airborne. That's not to say that it all goes there, but the vast majority of it does. In the Russian program, they had a situation in which they actually brought 2 cosmonauts back down because the interpersonal relationships deteriorated to the point that they couldn't continue the mission. And but that's the only example of that I know of. And you know, the Russians have an awful lot of experience with long duration flights. One Russian flew for over a year and a half, Valery Polakov, in that can, you know, in the Mir space station. So they've got a lot of experience in long duration, but they work really hard on that. They had uplink and downlink TV, and they had entertainers come into studios and pipe up music and tell stories and jokes, and they had visits with their families on live link TV. They work very hard on the interpersonal thing.
Do you play a lot of cards?
Don't play cards. Don't play cards.
Play bridge?
You know, I'll tell you what, on space shuttle flights, you're up there for such short periods of time that the scene out the window is so dramatic that you're not really much interested in other forms of entertainment.